Many composers begin their work by drafting a basic outline, which they then develop into a finished composition, or so we're often told. Music analysts in turn have long strived to reverse engineer this process. That is, they take a completed composition and then propose an outline that might have served as its basis. This standard strategy for music analysis has several advantages, yet it's not without its problems. Both its benefits and difficulties may be seen in one of the very first analyses along these lines, from an 18th century treatise by the theorist Heinrich Christoph Koch. Koch's treatise appeared before searches for compositional outlines became so common as to be taken for granted. As such, examining his analysis helps highlight some of the ambiguities that accompany such analyses in general. In his treatise, Koch advises composers to begin by first coming up with a plan. According to his view, a plan should present all of the movement's themes, roughly in the order they'll appear within each of the movement's sections. For the next stage of the compositional process, Koch recommends that the movement's individual sections be worked out and elaborated. He suggests that each section be based on either all or part of the plan, sometimes condensed, sometimes expanded. When realized within a composition, the plan's individual phrases can be expanded as well. According to Koch, each phrase must be at least 4 bars long. But when fleshed out within a piece, phrases might extend longer through the addition of insertions, suffixes, or both. The harmony at the end of a suffix might even differ from what's at the end of the phrase's main part. This forms what may be called an ending-altering suffix, as when an unstable phrase ending is changed into a stable one. To help demonstrate how a plan can relate to a finished work, at one point in his treatise, Koch composed something of his own, based on a plan that he invented. The plan he constructed for this purpose is quite plain, using no phrase expansions or repetitions. In contrast, the piece that he based upon this plan includes many expanded and repeated phrases, so that what lasted for only 16 bars within his plan, Koch enlarged to 64 bars within his composition. Elsewhere in his treatise, Koch tried to reverse this process. That is, he showed how a pre-existing work could be understood as based on an abstract plan, and for this purpose, he analyzed an aria excerpt from Carl Heinrich Graun's Tod Jesu. Koch explained that he chose this aria not only because it's well known, but also because he felt that its underlying plan is obvious and thus easy to discover. As we'll see, however, though the plan he proposed is well wrought, it's not quite as obvious as he suggests. Koch's plan for this aria involves 3 different phrases, which I label here as A, B, and C, and which form the basis for all of the aria's sections. To help present the plan in a concrete manner, Koch recomposed the aria's first vocal section. In doing so, he simplified the texture and left off measures that he regarded as structurally less important. The plan he devised thus provides a streamlined representation of the aria. But did he streamline too much or too little? Let's compare his proposed plan with the aria. In Graun's aria, the vocalist's first phrase lasts for 4 bars. Koch includes this entire phrase in his depiction of the plan. The music of the aria's second phrase repeats the first one. Thus, according to his own guidelines, Koch could have omitted this phrase from his plan as redundant. But perhaps because the text changes here, and also since it does help support a sense of a beginning, he decides to include this phrase repetition nonetheless, as we'll soon hear. The next phrase of Graun's aria is an 8-bar expanded phrase. As noted earlier, when Koch invented a plan as the basis for a piece of his own, he used only basic 4-bar phrases, entirely avoiding phrase expansions. In coming up with a plan for Graun's aria, Koch likewise could have used 4-bar phrases exclusively, like this. But he chose not to do so here, perhaps because he felt the aria is so beautiful that he hesitated to regard any part of it as non-essential. Accordingly, Koch includes the mid-phrase insertion within his plan for this phrase, though he does omit its suffix. But then, in a footnote to his discussion, he second-guesses himself, noting that perhaps even the suffix could be included as well. This reminds me of when, after we trick-or-treated for Halloween one year, my mother told my brother and me to keep only the candy we really wanted, and to throw out the rest. After much deliberation, we decided to keep most of our haul, setting aside only a few pieces of candy to be discarded. And then, after further consideration, we decided that we also wanted the candy we initially set aside. Much like Koch, we found that it's not so easy to leave out anything. It all seems important. Now, Koch did manage to trim things within his plan for this excerpt's last 2 phrases. In Graun's aria, these phrases are very similar to each other, except that the first one ends unstably, and the next conclusively. Curiously, Koch's plan depicts this passage not as 2 phrases, as it surely could have. Instead, Koch depicts this passage as just 1 phrase, with an ending-altering suffix. He evidently felt that these 2 similar phrases, with contrasting endings, could be fairly represented as a single phrase that ends in 2 different ways. Koch's choices in devising this plan are all logical, and they do help nicely spotlight the themes in Graun's aria. Yet surely other viable plans would have been possible. That is, at certain times Koch could have stripped away a bit more from the original, and other times a bit less. And though most music analysts now tend to use different specific methods than he did, separating the essential from non-essential elements is no more obvious to us today than it was for Koch. And in this sense, his analysis can be regarded as emblematic of all such attempts to uncover musical outlines. Consider this as we listen to Koch's plan. Now compare this to Graun's actual aria.